Okay, hopefully everyone can hear me. Awesome. I see some nodding there, which is great. Just check that. I am recording this in case anybody is needing it, and I just need to make sure that I also share my screen, don't I? Okay, and what we'll do is we'll just wait a few more seconds for others to come on. Cool. And if I look away, I've just got two monitors happening here, and I'm trying to use the main one for the screen capture, so it's the right resolution and things like that. Okay. Cool. So we'll have a little bit of time for some questions and answers later on. But primarily today we're looking at going through the matching and deduplication rules. And what I'm going to do here is just provide some of the options that are available. I will, Cameron or Magna, if you see any questions, if you can just jump in at some stage and just let me know when they come in. Because obviously I'm just concentrating on the presentation. So what we're going to go through is matching deduplication rules. We'll go through the default matching rules and how they work. We'll have a look at some things that we've introduced reasonably recently, within the last 12, 15 months. One of those is using Salesforce native duplicate rules and how you turn those on and enable them. And then we'll have a look at adding some, custom fields and things like that, and how you can actually use that as part of your deduplication process. Or in some cases, people actually want to have a duplicate, but they want to specify a custom field as the unique reason for that duplicate. Cool. Any questions before I start? Okay, let's start then. Our recommendation is to pretty much go with the duplicate rules that come delivered with payments to us. Now, the best way to see what those are is if you don't already have a demo merchant facility, is to come into the About tab and then go create samples. Okay. Now, what that does is that will set up, like a test merchant facility, an account, and things like that. But it creates a merchant facility called Demo Facility. And if you click into that, what you'll see on the Demo Facility is when we scroll down and have a look at the matching rules, is the various combinations that have already been selected. So you've got things here like account plus first name and or last name, first name and last name. And we typically find that most of these combinations work pretty well for pretty much every organisation. If they didn't, we would obviously adjust things. There is a few little quirks depending on those that are using the non-profit success pack. And what I'll do is I'll talk about those a little bit later. So you know that there's another setting on the merchant facility. It says how are you going to be doing your matching? And I don't have non-profit success pack installed here, but if you did, you'd have that set for that. And that kind of does a couple of extra things for householding. But again, I'll try and mention those as we go through. So merchant facility, if you go through the standard samples, you should be okay with most of those, most of the standard setup. What I'm going to do here is try not to scroll around too much. Is go to the base site URL, and what we'll do is we'll just enter in a quick payment here. So this is generating the form, using the form. I'm sure you're pretty familiar with all of this. And I'm going to try and check with my entry here so you're not stuck there with my watch my typing, and I'll put 100 as the amount, and name on Jeff for 111, and then that comes into here, and I go pay now. You'll all be familiar with that. What that does is that comes into the payment transaction tab, and what I would do here is just filter out today's transactions, and we can see these ones here. I'm going to click into the one I just entered now, and each of these, this organisation doesn't have my my status bar shown here. So there's normally a status bar that sort of shows the different statuses. But what that would show is comes in its confirmation status once it's on the line. So that's when you press the pay now. Then what it does is it goes off to the payment gateway, charges the card, comes back, changes it to payment complete, which then generates a receipt. So this is the steps that you go through for a normal transaction. So we basically charge the card, we generate a receipt, and then the final part is we go through a matching status. Now, often in orgs, we advise to have this thing called a batch processor started, and that runs about every 10 minutes. So there's a delay between the receiving complete and normally for the matching and deduplication process. So I've got that turned off in my instance here for today's demo. Okay. Anybody wants to know about the batch processor? Again, that's just on the merchant facility. It's like a little start-stop button, and that should be started in most instances. And the reason for that, why that's important, is because the online forms that are publicly accessible have less permission than an internal user. So therefore, with the internal user pressing the start, it runs under their profile, and it means all the visibility that that user has is controlled by that. So it gets to see and update more information. So that's why the batch processor is important to be run. Okay, so different statuses, so payment, start or payment complete, receipting, matching process. When we go through the matching process, we are looking at a number of different fields that are entered on the form. Okay, now what we then do is we give each of those different fields a weighting or a score. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go to another tab here. And what we'll do here is we'll go to Google. And I'm going to just do a normal sort of Google search. So if you're in our manuals, start with payments to us. And then that should find the exact manual page. There, what I'll do is I'll just go directly to that page. So we have some notes on here about how the matching process works, and it's called How to Automatically Match a Payee to a Contact. If you scroll down here, what you'll see here is that some things like, email and mobile phone are more likely to be unique, so we give those a higher weighting. Things like a first name, so sometimes you might have Jen, and next time you might have Jenny, and next time you might have Jennifer. So it's actually not given as much of a weighting. So what we do is we add all of these components together, and we'll select contacts inside Salesforce that match kind of all of these different criteria: first name, last name, mobile, email, and we rank them by who gets the highest score. And if it's over 50%, and if you've done automatic matching, then we'll automatically link it to that contact, or we can automatically create it. What I said there is when we go through the matching process, we can find those people and automatically create them. There is an option on the merchant facility where you can say only link the transaction if you're absolutely sure the person exists. And if you're not, then we go through like a manual process. So that option is available. I would say there's very few organisations that are actually using that, because it means somebody's got to come in, manually each day or week or whatever it is, and then do that. But if you do that option, that kind of brings up who it thinks it is. You can accept it, or you can create your own new one if you want. Okay. So that's what happens there. If it's got a score over 50, it will link it to that contact. If it's got a score under 50, it thinks it's a new record and will automatically create it. One of the exceptions that we have for all of this with the contact level is when you are using the Nonprofit Success Pack, what we'll do is we'll try and find the most likely contact that you're going to have. And then at the very last minute, what we're going to do is we're going to see if the name on the file or the one that exists already, if they start with each other. So this is where it'll pick up Jen equals Jennifer or Jenny, or Jeff equals Jeffrey. So it'll pick that up. At the very last second, if it cannot find it, what it's going to do is it's going to create a new contact for that person. So if their first name doesn't match, within that household. Because what we find with the Nonprofit Success Pack is that you get a lot of people that will share email addresses and sometimes mobile phones within a family group, and that this way we will actually create, the husband or husband and wife or whatever, they'll get created in there as a family group. Cool. Any questions about that? Because that's kind of our process for using the automatic side of things. So I think that was Irene. Raised a hand. Yep.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, I'm curious that membership ID is 90 and not 100. If, would that be an exact match?
Well, pretty much. So a lot of these you'd also have to have the last name match as well for a membership. So it pretty much is over 50 anyway. So you would get a very high match on that, and it would be considered pretty much considered unique. Yeah. So you are right. Membership ID. A lot of organisations do rename that to fundraiser ID as well. And also remember, we still do that thing of, the first name thing within a family group as well. So two can share the same membership ID. Cool. There's Chris.
Just clarifying that score of over 50. First of all, you said over 50%. So I wasn't sure, is it just the number or is it a percentage of something?
It's a number. So what it does is, so if you had a first name correct and suburb correct, that's going to give you 35. But that was the only two pieces of data that matched. Then that's not over 50. So it's going to think it's not unique. But if you had, say, like email and last name, that's going to be well over 50.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because just with the high score for email and mobile, if that was the only thing that matched, would it, so you've got two people sharing the same email in a family.
So again, it depends if you're using the Nonprofit Success Pack. And that's the reason why when we find somebody using Nonprofit Success Pack, we will try and locate the person, and then the last moment we do a little bit of matching on the actual first name, and that way, if they are sharing an email address, we'll create a new contact.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you.
So it is a little bit of a quirk with the Nonprofit Success Pack. Cool, and it's probably going to be more applicable to nonprofits versus corporates and things anyway. Cool. Any other questions? And I'll move on to the duplicate rules as the next option. I'll move on to the duplicate rules as the next option. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to Setup. And you have an option here called duplicate rules. And you'll find that you normally have a few that come standard with Salesforce. But you have a look here, these are not actually active in my instance at this time. Okay, so if I go to the account one and I go activate, then that's now made by account matching rules, activated. You have kind of like at the object level, and then you have within the rules, you kind of have what it's going to be matching on, and you can sort of see the more info will tell you. So this one has a bit more of some fuzzy logic inside it. So you can see here they're not just using the full city; they're kind of using ways of chopping up city. They're also doing company, website. So that's kind of a different way that they think. You can find a duplicate on a using matching rules by using their duplicate rules. And so what you do is you set these up, have a look at Salesforce Online Help, if you want to know more information. But I'm just saying there's a stock standard Salesforce rule for that. What you then do is you go back to our merchant facility if you wanted to use that. And what you do this time is you kind of remove all of the options that came in here. Oops. If I could only use the keyboard. And okay, sorry. So what I'm looking for here now is simply use duplicate rule, and I'm going to take that option off. What you're doing here is sort of saying, hey, I don't want to use the rules that come with Payments to Us. I want to use Salesforce native. And I just go save. I can put through another transaction, put your hands up or something like that if you want me to do that. But what will happen now is that form is going to come in here. It's going to create a payment transaction. When it goes through, remember those different stages. So the confirmation payment complete, receipting, and then the start matching complete, the matching process. The matching process, now what it does is it tries to create the record using all of those details as before. What happens is Salesforce returns back if it thinks it's a duplicate. And then if it does that, then we actually pick that up and use it. So I'm not sure if you've been using Salesforce and if you just go through the normal UI and try and add an account or a contact when you've got duplicate rules, when you press to go save, it pops up with an alert says there's one other, in fact, maybe I can just do that now. So if I go to accounts now and go new, and I'll enter in consult PTY Ltd, and I have I think I use look at this, see it's already come up with it. Okay, so see how this has come out with an alert as I try to enter. And if I do save, it should also come up with a duplicate as well. Cool. So that kind of alert is what we get programmatically back from Salesforce as we try to create it, and we actually, instead of you manually clicking it, we programmatically behind the scenes select it. So hopefully that makes sense. Any questions on that before I move on to the next one?
Yes, Jeff. Stephen in the chat highlighted one, the recommendations in terms of choosing a Salesforce native or email first, last name. It's in the chat.
Okay, cool. At this stage, we've found that most people are using the ones that come with Payments to Us standard, and we haven't had too much feedback on the duplicate rules. Nobody's kind of complained about it. I think the preference probably comes down to yourself if you want to use the Salesforce duplicate matching rules, you kind of got to kind of tweak those yourself until you get it. The ones we've done, like I say, seem to work. So unless you've got issues, then maybe try that. If you don't have issues, then if you do have issues without ones, then maybe try the Salesforce native. What you probably find, though, is a lot of organisations now are actually enabling the duplicate rules inside their Salesforce for that reason I just showed you before of entering their own accounts and contacts. They want to have it highlighted as to when duplicates are coming. So if you've got your rules up, you're pretty happy with those, then maybe it is a good option to switch to using those instead of ours.
Great. Penny has another one, and Jeff, I think you probably saw it already.
Yeah. So this is for having different matching rules for like events versus donors and training courses. Yeah, you can. So the matching rules are set up at the merchant facility level. So if you did want to have, different rules for some people, then you could just have two different merchant facilities and then the related payment forms to that. Generally speaking, a merchant facility is for a different company type thing. So you might have a branch in New South Wales and a branch in Victoria with two different bank accounts, but there's nothing actually stopping you having the same merchant facility cloned, but just having a couple of different settings on it.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Just to comment on that, the reason is because the service providers are putting in their personal email addresses, and it's matching, but it's writing over their work email address actually as their preferred. So for our service providers doing course registrations, when it's matching well, like it's finding the right person, but it's updating, and we don't want the service provider personal email in there. As much as we say use your work email, there's only just so much you can protect people against,
That's probably a different sort of data topic conversation.
Right.
A lot of that's around the the non-profit success pack. And the way that works, but it is relevant to this discussion to some degrees. So what will happen is behind the scenes, Salesforce has a field called email, but what their non-profit success pack does is it has their own field called work email and home email, which is kind of like their own fields, and then it has another field that says choose your preferred. And what happens is when you choose your preferred, it copies, say if you say preferred work, it copies the work email into behind the scenes into the standard Salesforce email field, and that's the one that we update as well. If you need some trickery around that, then potentially you can, there's kind of ways of doing that where you have kind of like custom fields and updates and things like that.
I was thinking, so if we just sort of copied the payment, the merchant facility, and just changed it even to manual matching, we'd be better off than we are now, I think.
That's one option. Yeah, cool.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Jeff Parrell has a question as well.
Hi, Jeff.
Yeah.
I just want to know, like, when we are using like the duplicate rules, so would it match the payment transaction to the duplicate rule? Because I can see like it's throwing in the warning we found of one potential duplicate. But what about the payment transaction? Like, would it match to this record or the record which we have previously?
Say we actually do have a duplicate rule in there in the system. So I've deliberately created two Arconsult PDY Limiteds, and I went over the warning inside Salesforce. It's a good question. You'd have to check it. So what happens is when if we go to try and create a third one, third account, Salesforce will come up with a list of sort of saying possible duplicates. And what we do is when that list comes back, we pick the first one. So it's however Salesforce kind of dishes up. So if I create like a new account now, it's going to say, hey, there's two potential duplicates, and we're automatically going to select the first one of those. And I don't know what the rules are that Salesforce uses there.
Okay.
We have to probably, contact Salesforce or have a look at, their duplicate rules help. But yeah, that's a good question. There should be a, Stump Jeff, bonus round or something. Cool. So sorry about that. Anything else? And I'll move on.
Yeah, I had a question as well, Jeff, and probably similar to the email question, but to do with the phone fields. So on our payment form, we only have the phone, just the one phone field. We don't have phone and mobile. So when you're matching that phone field to the contact record, are you matching that to the standard phone field or the home phone field?
So it's very similar to the email thing. So Salesforce has, home and work phone, and then it has a, preferred one. And what it does is updates the standard Salesforce field. We are only going into the standard Salesforce field. Yep. So one of the other key things is most people here are with quite familiar with Salesforce as opposed to brand new. But the process that we work with is everything comes into a payment transaction, whether it's an import, batch processor, direct debit run, recurring run, online checkout form. They come into here, and then we do the matching deduplication process. What we do is when we create or update the account, so when we can potentially create or update an opportunity, or create an opportunity, create an account, create a contact, create a campaign member. And what we do, and obviously, subscriptions and those other Salesforce related type things. But when we create the account, contact, opportunity, campaign member, we copy the API name field on the payment transaction over to the matching field with the same API name on there. So for your question here, we have a field called phone, which copies it to phone on the contact record. If you created a custom field called home phone, now it's not going to recognize the namespace from the nonprofit success pack, but you created a custom field on the contact called home phone, home_phone is the API name, then it'll copy like for like. Okay, or home_email, home_email. Cool. So again, just do a Google search, like payments to us, like for like copy, and you should find it. The help guide on that as well. Okay, I realise we've only got 3 minutes, so let me see if I can do this justice in 3 minutes. So the next thing I was going to go through was custom fields. So what we have is some people want to deliberately have a duplicate on their instance. So they might have the same name but different branches throughout the country. Or some people want to have the same name but different ABN numbers. Okay, so they've got exactly the same name, but it's got different ABN numbers. That's the example I'm going to go through here. So what I've got here is on my account object, I've added a custom field called ABN. Okay, on the payment TXN object, which is payment transaction object under fields, I've added a field called ABN here as well. Okay, again, there is a user guide on adding custom fields, and I'll just go to that page here. And that's how to add a custom field, and you can add this to your form, okay? So you add the fields for both things, remember the like for like, so I copy ABN from entered, new field, to the ABN on the account record because it's got the same internal API name. There is some security that you need to set up as well, and I've already pre-done that. So what will happen, what can happen now is, and again, this is all in the guides on how to set things up, but if I go back to Object Manager, and we go to the merchant facility, and we have a look at fields, and I have a look at the rule field, matching rules. You can add your own custom ones. So I can go here, and I can go new, and I can go account. I think it's account name plus has to have space plus space, and whatever name it is must be as entered there. And then what you do is put square brackets around here, and you go ABN_C. So this is from what we, and don't forget to do the add to all record types. So that is our field name, and it's shown with the _C. So go there. Now when I go back to my matching rules and click into here, I can come into here now, and I can select accounts name plus the ABN field. Okay, so that would mean it would, if I found the same name but different ABN, or if I found the same name but a different ABN, then it's going to automatically create a new account with that ABN. So, but if it found an account with the same ABN, then it's going to use that one and link it to that. Okay, so that's kind of like the three things. I am conscious of time, so hopefully that was useful. Hopefully that was a bit of insights. I'll take one or two more questions, but then I think we'll try and finish it because we said until 1 o'clock. Okay, if this recording works, we had a bit of trouble with our recordings. We'll put a link onto Trailhead later on today. And for those that are not on Trailhead, you can find under support and then Trailblazer Group. You can sign up there if you haven't already. Cool. If you want the video rather than notes, so like I say, it'll be in Trailblazer Group. Cool. Okay, thank you. Have a wonderful day, and don't forget to send suggestions in Trailblazer Group for other topics if you want like those covered off. And this one was suggested, so thanks for that suggestion. Have a good day. Cheers.